Hi, happy holidays. In this video, I wanted to show you all my DIY Advent cookie calendar. I started making my own after all the Advent cookie boxes would sell out super quick. This is a great idea whether you sell cookies or just want to give someone a nice gift. For this video, I only made 12 days, but feel free to go all the way up to 24. And as always, the materials will be linked in the description below. I also added the link to the number template I made for this tutorial. I wanted to start with the decorating process because it's one of my favorite things to do. Side note, all of the cookies are minis, so they're about 2 to 5 inches, so they can fit in the little boxes that I'll show you later in the video. With this mug cookie, I'm using flood consistency white icing and letting the areas dry in between. So the mug cookie wouldn't look plain, I decided to do the splatter effect. This effect is when you take a toothbrush, dip it in some food color, and then you run your fingers across it so it can splatter the color all over the cookie. With this cookie, I used red and green AmeriColor food coloring. And make sure to use a clean, new toothbrush because it has to be used on food only, especially if you're sharing this with others. Hey, after that, I finished this cookie off with a cute little mistletoe. I decorated the tag cookie using the same process as the mug. The writing was done with green flood icing, but I made sure to cut a small hole in it so that way it could come out sort of neat. The star was done with thick yellow consistency icing. The tree was done with flood consistency icing. Most of the cookies are. I wanted to show this one because one side of it was smashed. When something like that happens, just flood the lower side with more icing so it will look even once it's dry. I did that here. It did go over a little bit, but it's an easy fix with a scribe tool. Once the cookie dried, I put some red dots on it to give the cookie a little something, you know. Next is the Nutcracker. He is my favorite out of the whole set. I flooded each section separately, letting them dry in between. I have to be honest, I don't know what goes on their hat because each time I see one, they're always different. So don't get me on accuracy, guys. Now for his eyes and his beard, I use stiff consistency black icing. Yo, he is so dope. Okay, moving on because we still have a bunch of cookies to go. On to my bear cookies. I did these cute guys back to back. The polar bear, I flooded him with white icing. Then I added some sanding sugar. I wanted him to look cute and fluffy. After that, I put some more white royal icing on top. A big circle for his nose and then 2 smaller circles for his eyes. I did this so that way I can add sprinkles for those 2 areas instead of piping them out. Just makes things easier. Then I followed the same icing and sanding sugar process for his ears. It's pretty much the same process for the teddy bear. I flooded him brown and then waited for him to dry. I used a lighter brown color royal icing to make a smaller circle for his nose area. But with him, I did pipe on his two eyes and his cute little button nose. The ornament. I flooded this red, and I used fondant in my snowflake mold to make all these cute little snowflakes. And as you can see, they gave me a little bit of problems. It still ended up being cute though. Next, we have the mini camper. I flooded the bottom white and flooded the top red. The wheels I made black. Then I filled in that little hole with some white. I wanted it to look more Christmassy, so I took some green icing and made a little tree on the side. I used my scribe tool to really make the tips come to a point. From there, I used some stiff consistency yellow icing to give the tree a star. Okay, this is another sort of mug cutter, but it's from the top view. So now you see what's inside of the cup. I used the wet on wet technique here. It's supposed to look like those fancy hot cocos that you get in a cafe, and they decorate like the foam on top. So first I flooded it brown. Then I added some white. I was trying to do a quick triangle tree, but it wasn't working out. So I had to put a little more icing in there and pull out my scribe tool again to point those tips. So once the inside dried, I used some white flood icing to just go around it to finish off the mug. The present cookie. So with this cookie, I flooded each section separately. And of course, I went with red and green. Those were the two icings that were next to me. Okay, now when all of this dried, I went back to the fondant again, and I used it to create this little Christmas tree just to give the box a little something. Next, we have the First Lady of Christmas, Mrs. Claus. I flooded her in sections as well. I did her face first and then her hair. Once both were dry, I did her face. I used the same stiff consistency black for her eyes, and then the same brown flood for her nose, and some red for her lips. I used the same red that I used on her lips for her bow. Then added a little green so she could have a mistletoe accessory. Last but not least is the man of the season, Santa. He's pretty much done the same way Mrs. Claus is. I did his face and his hat first, so once it crusted, I could do the rest of his hat and his beard at the same time. Once those crusted over, I added his eyes and his nose and the puff at the end of his hat. Okay, here's a look at the complete set of minis. If you've watched this long, thank you. And if you skipped ahead, let's get to putting this calendar together. Before we do anything else, make sure to heat seal these cookies. You want them to stay fresh. Here's my template of the tags for the 12 days. I just cut these out. I also have one for 24 days. I will link it below. Psst, it's free. Next, using my hole puncher, I will punch a hole in each of the tags. I like this little hole puncher because it holds all the scraps. Next, I did my basket. You can save this step for last. Initially, I was going to use this round Easter basket. I even put some bows on it. But then I remembered I had this red one. So now we fancy. Well, sorta. Since this is for the house, I upcycled some gift bags I received last year to use as fabric for this basket. It would have been nice if I remembered to cut off the tags. Now, if you're selling these or giving a bunch away, make sure to buy some fabric, which is always on sale this time of year. I found this cute little decoration at Dollar Tree. They have a bunch of little things that you can put on these baskets to make them look really, really festive. I'll attach this off camera. Okay, on to the fun part, the assembly. So I have my twine, my tags, cookies, tape, scissors, and these cute little envelope boxes. They are perfect for mini cookies. To help me fit the cookies in them, I pre-bend each side. If you're used to crafting, you probably wouldn't have to do this, but it helped me a lot. See, the cookies slip right in. Close each side with a bit of tape, and you're good to go. Since I'm doing everything back to back, I only did 3 on camera. Yes, y'all. I was doing all of this in one straight recording session. With this third one, I wanted to show you how to fit some of the taller cookies in. Just flip it to the side and it fits in perfectly. So let's move on to doing the tags and ties. I cut the tip off of my twine, then put it through the hole of my tag. I measured it around the box. Then cut it and tied it. Now, I'm no bow expert, but I think it looks festive. So does my little guy Z. Hey, little hand. It took me to do the third box to realize, Tori, use one string at the right length to cut out all the rest so you could be done faster. All 12 boxes are packed and tied, so we can start putting it in the basket. I place my boxes vertically because I have a smaller basket, but you can do this in any order or any way you like. Okay, that's it, y'all. A cute do-it-yourself Advent cookie calendar. Ours is going to go on our table until Christmas. If you decide to make these, please make sure to tag me. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. And always talk to me in the comments. Until next time.